Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. This is Alex, your host, with you. We are not even 1 week away from the draft, because it's draft week now, as you're listening to this. I'm here with Steve and with Jamal. Guys, I hope you're having a good day. Better than me, because I'm sick as a dog right now. I got a nasty cold. But let's start out by talking about our new partner, Symbol. Symbol, that is www.simbull.app. You should check them out. Steve and I have talked about it. We've started using it. I bought the Nationals live on the show last week. They started winning some games, so I made some money off of that. That was a good little buy because every time a team wins, guys, you get some money for it. And then if your team's doing better, they're worth more. It's like buying a stock market investment. Symbol is really that stock market for sports. You buy a team, you get money when they win. There's no high fees and no losses like in gambling. It's a new way to invest and profit off of your favorite teams, like I am with the Nationals right now. I signed up using our promo code HOGSTY, $10 bonus when I signed up. You should do the same. Just go to our website, www.thehogstye.com, click on the app logo right in the top of our page. Symbol, it is the stock market for sports. And again, use our promo code HOGSTY for a $10 bonus.
Or you could do like me and invest in teams, ignore your favorite teams and invest in teams that are going to win.
That's true, too. You could do that, too.
But
basically,
I bought
the Nats, they won 3 games,
Yeah, I'm about to say, and basically the Wizards have been on a 7-game win streak over the past week. So, if you were to catch on early, like around the 2 or 3 game mark, you would have made a decent amount of money too.
Oh, and they were probably a buy low team if you had bought them at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people had faith in the Wizards to even be they're the 10 seed, I think, right now. But I think a lot of people thought they'd be lower than that.
Yeah,
you guys are talking about the NBA right now, right?
Yes,
Just to clarify.
Yes.
We are talking about the NBA. Yes, we are.
Because you can buy the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball all on this app right now. I don't think they do hockey yet. They need to do hockey.
I wouldn't know who to buy in hockey, to be perfectly honest, though. I'd have to study it.
Yeah, well, go for the establishment teams. Hockey's a sport where they always, those establishment teams tend to keep coming back.
Yeah, but a new team wins the Stanley Cup every year, and some of them are wild card teams.
That's true.
They have a lot of variation in hockey.
Once you get to the playoffs, yes, they do. And no XFL either when that comes back.
Okay, when it comes back, listen to Alex. When it comes back,
I'm always an optimist.
Time is on their side. I think it'll come back once they get everything done the right way.
Y'all are fools to believe that it's going to do anything but fail.
Well, they're going to partner with the CFL, but that's another show. So, guys, like I said initially, and, we did a 3-minute spot for Symbol. I think they should be happy. I said initially this is, 4 days from the draft. We're releasing this on Monday. Draft starts Thursday, or round 1. So this is our pre-draft show. This is always a lot of fun to kind of speculate what's going to happen in the draft. We got quarterbacks to talk about still. But I want to start with a fun little thing Steve wrote up. You wrote a little story about the long snapper situation here in Washington because, as we know, Sundberg got let go. Longtime player for the team. I think he was the most senior player on the team at that point.
He was, yes.
Yeah, and just cost too much money, so they let him go. So they don't have a long snapper. So you went and hunted down a long snapper guru to find out.
I did.
What can they do?
This was called We Need Content because we needed a story. And I thought, Nick Sundberg, here's something to write about. And my travails through the internet led me to Chris Rubio of RubioLongsnapping.com. He is clearly one of the preeminent long snapping coaches in the country. He was Nick Sundberg's coach long time ago before Sundberg was in the pros. He really knows long snapping. And so I said, look, when I got a hold of him, and thanks to him for talking to me, he didn't have to do that. I said, look, first of all, is there anything wrong with Sundberg? He said, no, nothing's wrong with Sundberg. Probably just got caught up in a salary cap dump, which Rubio says happens to a whole lot of long snappers.
Yeah.
Most long snappers. Which is kind of sad, and that's probably an It's Just Business topic. But before we got off the phone, I said, okay, give me your list of long snappers, in the draft, because Washington needs somebody. They clearly aren't going to sign a free agent, and Sundberg's at home. And so he gave me 3 names, in this order. Thomas Fletcher, Alabama. He's apparently the best. Ryan Langan from Georgia Southern, which is a name I never would have thought of absent Rubio.
I've actually looked into the long snapper situation. I didn't even know his name.
Yeah, and then Cameron Cheeseman from Michigan is the other guys. Those 3 guys, I think it's a safe bet that one way or the other, Fletcher, Langan, or Cheeseman, one of those 3 guys is going to be on this team on Washington.
Right. Now, they won't draft any of them. You don't.
They might.
I don't know the last time anyone's drafted a long snapper. I'd have to look.
One mock draft I saw this morning had Thomas Fletcher to Washington with the last pick in the 7th round.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I would imagine
it's
it'd
just
be
funny
like
to think
6th or
about.
7th. In
Yeah.
terms of rounds.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't burn a high pick on a long snapper, but I mean, if you can secure your guy without having to fight through the undrafted free agent mess, and they really need somebody, not a bad idea.
I mean, if you take a long snapper in the 7th round and he's here for 10 years, is that a win? I mean, I guess
Of course
so.
it's a win.
Yeah.
It's a huge, not I guess, it's an absolutely. Any player who you draft in round 7 who is not gone in a year is a win.
Sure. I think that's a fair point.
Well, damn, that just made me forget my question. Cause I'm sitting here thinking about the long snapper situation, but I'm like, what would? Yeah, forget it. Cause I was about to ask about like their position title. Cause can't they do more than like long snapper, or is it simply like their position title is long snapper?
Their position title is long snapper.
Yeah, it's not to say you couldn't like have somebody else try it out, but I mean, believe it or not, long snappers actually usually have a body type.
Right.
They're usually 6'2", 6'3", between 220, 240 pounds. They're very rarely like a 6'5", 300-pound center type.
Right.
They're almost never like that. For some weird reason, that's who long snappers are, and that's who Sundberg was. Ethan Albright was a little bit bigger than that, but he wasn't a big dude. So I don't think that Washington's planning on having like Chase Roullier or Tyler Larson do it. So I have to think that at this point they are going to find somebody either in the draft or as an undrafted free agent.
Well, do you want to know the reason that they're usually that smaller size? It's because on punts, they also still need to get down the field to try and make a tackle. You don't want a 320-pound guy trying to do that necessarily. Getting somebody who's a little linebacker size makes more sense.
When trying to have him rumble 50 yards downfield, it probably won't go well.
Yeah. I mean, I know guys will do it, but
imagine if you had a linebacker though that was that talented where he could do long snapper and get down the field on special teams. Like that would be a hell of a special teamer right there for somebody who can do that, and he's capable enough to fly down the field at a fast enough pace and make a hit on a punt returner. Or
George Allen is in his grave and just smiling at the idea. So
yeah, that's
the problem is, I mean, long snapping is a skill.
It is.
And it's a very specific skill. And to be able to do that hundreds of times a year, never miss a single one, is something that very few people could probably do. I mean, there's a reason guys like Chris Rubio have a job.
Right.
And it's because it's something you can't just, wake up and be an NFL quality long snapper, So I think that's why you don't see more linebacker types who can do it, because they've never really practiced it. And they can't just. It's not like.
Yeah. I get that. I was just saying in the sake of Alex's comment.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you had a linebacker who just knew how to do it. Like he did it when he was younger, but his main position was linebacker. He just happened to snap well.
You have some insane linebacker who's 6'4", 240, be able to run down the field and long snap. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, Sudberg probably only had like maybe 5 tackles in his entire career, so it's not like he did a lot.
Not much.
But
no,
that is the point. That's why they're built the way they are.
Well, also, I think they're sort of tweeners, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Guys like that aren't big enough to be NFL offensive linemen, but they want to play football, and, they end up long snapping. I think a lot of them probably fall into it more than anything.
Probably. Although, pretty safe gig, too, because, Sundberg was here for over a decade. Ethan Albright, who was before him, was here for, I think, 40 years,
He was, if you read the column, I did go through that.
Yeah.
Sundberg was here for 2001 to 2009, or Ethan Albright was. Then Sundberg was 2010 to 2020. So there's not been a more stable position on this team than long snapper, believe it or not.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams are like that for the most part.
Yeah.
It's a fairly stable position. Unless you...
Why mess with it?
Yeah.
If you got one.
Unless you are shooting them over the puncher's head every time. Like, why would you bother?
Shout out to all the people in the college ranks that has committed to investing their time and development into becoming a long snapper. Because it's like certain sports where people are like, how on earth did you get a scholarship for that? People just find things and long snappers find their way, find their space in the NFL and football in general. So shout out to y'all. It's kind of crazy that we're talking about the subject right now of long snapping, but shout out to you all because that's definitely a good niche, and clearly longevity is there if you're really good at it.
Hey, not a bad way to get a scholarship, though.
Yeah, I think this is the longest we've ever talked about long
Probably
snapping.
the longest we'll talk about it for 10 years.
And thanks to Chris Rubio for talking to me. It was totally out of the blue,
That was pretty
and
good.
he was nice to give me some input.
Yeah, that was. You told me the backstory, how quickly he just called you, and that's pretty funny. So
Yeah, out of the clear blue sky,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so why don't we move on? Before we get into the full draft, I want to talk about the quarterback situation. I know, Steve, you also did the quarterbacks column this week.
And listen, it's 3,000 words. I always put a ton of effort into the quarterback, so please read it.
Yeah.
Please do me the honor of getting a click on it since I put so much effort
Especially
into
when
it.
we need a quarterback, you got to put the extra
Yeah.
effort in.
Right.
I think there was one year that somehow I wound up doing it when we were like, well, we drafted somebody or we're good.
That's why I let you do it.
Yeah, yeah. I always take the ones no one wants to do. So it's like,
Yeah.
Alex, go look at all the 8th round pick quarterbacks.
It takes me a long time
Yeah,
to
yeah.
generate our quarterback preview every year.
Yeah, it does. It does. So I think, we all know Trey Lance going number 1.
Trey
or, I'm
Lance.
sorry, Trevor Lawrence going number 1. I confused their names for some reason. They couldn't be more
Well,
different. as
TL,
players.
TL,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a duplication of initials.
It's that. Let's and the meds I'm on right now for my cold.
Yeah, if anybody could see what Alex looks like, it's pretty funny. He's wearing first of all, a blue RFK Stadium shirt, which I don't know how that happened, and he's got
I've got
Kleenex
tissue
stuffed
stuffed
up
up
his
my
nose.
nose, so I probably sound a little off. To keep it from running the whole time. It's
It's not Alex's proudest moment.
Nah, it's not even my worst moment though. Too. That's the best part.
That's also true. We could name your worst moment on air.
Yeah.
That was funny.
All right. So we got Trevor Lawrence. We all know where he's going.
Yes.
He's going number 1, Jacksonville. Easily one of the best prospects at quarterback to come out since, Andrew Luck, I would say.
Not one of.
Yeah.
He's the top-rated prospect since Andrew Luck.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I think that's fair to put him up there. There are guys who you occasionally think of, like Tua. I know he was highly touted at one point. Not the year he actually got, but the year before. If he'd come out a year earlier, he would have been one of those types of guys, I think. But
I don't know. I mean, I didn't think Tua was anywhere near Trevor Lawrence, in my unexpert opinion.
well, I'm just talking about hype more than anything.
Hype, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what can you say about the guy? He led his team to a lot of success in college. He was the starter for 3 years straight.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, he played. Yeah, he started for 3 years, 36 starts. That's a lot for a college quarterback. This guy has it all. He's big. He's 6'6", but he's athletic. He runs like a smaller guy. He has a ton of experience. He's passed for over 10,000 yards.
Right.
He's got a cannon for an arm. He can read the field. Most importantly, he can read the field. Nobody's perfect, for sure. And he went through some ups and downs a little bit in college, here and there. But Trevor Lawrence is as close to a perfect prospect as you can get. That doesn't mean he's going to succeed, but in terms of prospect, there is not a safer guy
Right.
than
The
even
one-
Andrew Luck. He's like Andrew Luck levels of prospect.
The one flag I've seen, and you know how when you get this close to draft, everyone's looking for every little flag, is people like, oh, well, he's now too laid back. Like, he doesn't want it hard enough.
See, that comes from one quote where
Yeah.
he came out and said something like, I don't live and die the Super Bowl, or I'm getting it wrong, but it was something along those lines, and people took that to mean
He won't be
I don't know
over.
how much he cares about
Yeah.
football. You'd have to interview him to know whether he was being serious or we babble for an hour a week and hours and hours, and we say lots of stuff we don't mean, and who knows.
Right.
Yeah, he essentially was just saying that to sum up what he was saying, he was just like he didn't have anything to prove. That's not
That was what it was. Yeah.
that's not why he plays the game and things like that. To prove other people wrong or whatever. But yeah, of course it was taken out of context because of you don't want to hear that from a potential draft prospect, but I mean he wasn't lying. Like he was always touted, like Alex said, like he was always touted as one of the better quarterbacks coming out in terms of high school and when he's preparing for the NFL draft. Like he's being honest with everybody who is listening and reading the interview. Like that's literally what he's doing. There should be no reason why anybody's upset with how he expressed himself. And he even clarified after the situation on Twitter and even spoke further into it. So I'm like, I'm with Steve. I don't. What the hell, y'all? What are y'all crying about?
Yeah, I didn't read too much into one quote. I mean, so what?
Well, like I said, I think, this time of year, every little issue gets made into a big issue just before the draft. So that's what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Next guy you had on your list, Justin Fields. I think early on, consensus was he was the second best quarterback. It seems like he's flipped and dropped off a lot of draft boards. But
Yeah, I mean, I still had him ranked number 2 for a reason. I think he's got better arm talent than Zach Wilson. Certainly, there's the Ohio State curse, if you want to call it that. Most Ohio State quarterbacks don't make it in the NFL. I mean, I get it, but put that aside and look at him as an individual and watch his film. I think he's got a better arm. He can read the field somewhat, not as good as Lawrence. He's also a better athlete than Zach Wilson. Can run more. I mean, your big fear about Justin Fields is really that, I mean, Ohio State's playing teams that are not worthy of Ohio State week after week after week. And so, the question becomes Clemson too. I mean, that's a question about Trevor Lawrence too. You got a ton of talent around you. It's like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Iowa Mud Sharks or something. I mean, that's the competition. So that's the fear of Fields. But I thought his arm and his natural athletic ability causes him, for me, to be ranked a little bit higher than Zach Wilson.
so my concern with Justin Fields is going to be, there was this medical thing that came out this week that
He has apparently some sort of
family
type of epilepsy.
which is
Yeah,
I've
mean,
never heard of that being hereditary.
Well, I mean, he's been dealing with it his whole life, and it hadn't been a problem.
Yeah.
So that's not something I'm too worried about.
Yeah, me neither. I just it's one of those things that could cause him to drop.
What's crazy, I think, I actually think Wilson is the more talented guy in terms of arm talent. Like I've watched Wilson over the years that he's played. I think he's only played 2 years, if I remember, like 2 full years as a starter. But last year, probably when they were about 2-0 or 3-0 at the time, I started watching him heavily because I'm like, we ain't starting off good, so I'm looking at the quarterbacks. This man Wilson, oh my goodness, the throws that he makes, at the angles that he makes them, and the situations in which he makes them, in terms of rolling out to the opposite of his throwing arm and throwing bullets downfield 20-30 yards. Some of the things that he's been able to do is kind of incredible. I love that aspect of him. I don't know. I haven't done like a side-by-side comparison between Fields and Lawrence in terms of like the type of throws that they can make just purely off arm talent. I don't know how they stack up, but in terms of this year, I have seen the most out of Wilson. And that is my number 2 guy. I would have said number one, but it's kind of hard for him to compete against Wilson, Lawrence, knowing the pedigree and the resume that Lawrence has. Fields, I'm torn. I admit it. I'm openly honest about and transparent about where I stand with Fields. I'm not one who roots against him. I'm not one who wishes he does horribly. I'm also one who is very aware of the situation in Ohio State and how often those quarterbacks get lost in the pros because of the type of system that they run at Ohio State. It's nothing wrong with the system that they run at Ohio State. Like, it's really good for college, but how does it translate to the pros? Like, what are you asking your quarterbacks to do at Ohio State that says, okay, they'll be ready for the pros? Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Justin Fields can't develop. Justin Fields won't be pro ready, because I don't know. I just know that the hurdles that it takes to transition from Ohio State to the NFL is and it's evident going back to going back to Troy Smith. Like, that's a long time ago. So the transition that it takes to go from Ohio State to the NFL is where I'm mainly concerned at. And that may be lazy scouting, and in terms of scouting the helmet and not the player. But like, I've also watched Justin Fields. I'm not taking this from a perspective of I don't know shit about Fields. I truly think that Ohio State plays a part in this in terms of getting them ready for the pros, and that's where my concern is. I think he's third behind Lawrence and behind Wilson. But I also, again, am not rooting for him to fail. I am rooting for him. I personally just don't know where he's going. And if he comes to Washington, I know I went on a longer rant, but if he comes to Washington, obviously I had to root for him, but I just wish to see him do well elsewhere. I do think
I think there's very little chance I don't think he's coming to Washington. I don't think any of these three guys are coming to Washington. I mean, look, you have some fair points, and that is a concern, I think, about Fields. In addition to the arm, because I do think Fields has a little bit better arm than Wilson, but Wilson has a little bit of Brett Favre in him in terms of attitude and the way he plays. There's no doubt about that. Part of my problem with him is BYU's competition isn't very good. They're independent now. They play a weak schedule. And so part of it is a competition thing. And the other thing is, I read some things about him having a bit of an attitude problem. He's a bit of a prima donna, allegedly. He's got difficult parents. And so he sounds like he may be a little bit more difficult to deal with than some of these other guys. So that's my opinion of it. But let's move on. We've all stated our opinion. I had Mac Jones number 4. Certainly that may be a minority opinion. The reason why I have Mac Jones number 4 is I love the way he plays in the pocket. He plays with a lot of anticipation. He knows how to throw wide receivers open. He's not athletic. He's got an average arm by NFL standards. He's got the same problem that Fields has at Ohio State, in that Alabama has a history of producing mediocre quarterbacks. They have a ton of talent around him. He's got the Heisman Trophy winner, another first-round draft pick. He's got Najee Harris, running back, great offensive line. All those are concerns, and he's got a lot to prove. But I love the way Mac Jones plays in the pocket, and I love the way he throws with anticipation, and that's why I had him ranked number 4.
I think you're way off on him being a number 4. To me, He's a second, third rounder type because of the pocket thing. Pocket quarterbacks are basically dead this day and age, unless you
except that that's the foundation of NFL football.
Well,
is pocket passing
was up until maybe a decade ago, but you have to be able to make plays outside the pocket now. I mean, there's one or two exceptions in this league. Tom Brady, of course, and Ben Roethlisberger. But Ben Roethlisberger makes do because he's 280 pounds, so he can shrug guys off. Mac Jones ain't that big. Tom Brady is just the greatest dink and dunk artist of all time, so he survived a lot longer because he's able to make those quick reads. I just don't see it with Jones. He's got a great completion percentage. He's got 2 first-round top 10 wide receivers this year. The advantages of the talent around him, I don't see him translating in the NFL at all. I really don't.
Fair enough. We disagree. That's cool. Jamal, what do you think?
I like Mac Jones. I was actually able to watch him and who was the other guy? Oh, Trey Lance. I was able to watch both of them last week, and Mac Jones does some things that is pretty, like, it's simple, but it's like you know what you're getting with that type of quarterback. He's fine in the pocket, and people say he's immobile. I'd agree, but I would also say when you look at him, he's a guy. He's not going to be there, the type of quarterback who's going to just move around in the pocket. He can still, move around in the pocket and just take a loss if he has to. He can still get you 1 to 2 yards, some type of positive gain. Like, and I'm not saying that that's something great, but I'm saying when you think he's in trouble, he can still find a way to get out of making a negative play into something that's decent. And you shouldn't expect anything more than a 5-yard scramble from him. But like the immobile part is to a degree, it's to an extent. But with Mac Jones, man, I done seen some throws that he made where it was pinpoint accuracy. I can't tell because when it comes to college, I want everybody to know who's listening to this. It's unless you're plugged in, literally, it's very hard to get all 22 film from college for college football. So you'll really have to rely on YouTube highlights. And with that being said, or YouTube games, because they're not always highlights, but YouTube games.
I get all mine from YouTube games, as many as I can find.
And it's hard for college football. But with that being said, it's hard to see exactly what quarterbacks or certain positions can see on the opposite end. But with that being said, you can also take a look at how they throw the football, and where they're going to, and kind of see like their process to a certain extent. Like, did they look at certain reads, and did they look off of safety or cornerback or whatever? Mac Jones has did a good job at leading his receivers in the right way. In the red zone, he's very safe. He's I seen one pass where it was against a top defense. I can't remember, but his receiver did a really good job at separating. But he also threw like a back shoulder type of throw to the pylon where only his receiver can get it, and that's pinpoint accuracy as well. So I think when it comes to Mac Jones, he's going to be in a situation where he'll need some playmakers at the receiver position in terms of like creating separation. But Mac Jones does do a good job at leading his receivers as well, and he can make some throws from the pocket that's very respectable and very NFL ready. Like, but if there's one thing I will say that I am very hesitant on and don't know how it'll look when he gets to the NFL, it's how he tries to I don't know what the word is, but I'll just say how he protects himself in the pocket. When he sees an imminent hit coming, like he knows he's about to get hit, he kind of his mechanics kind of shifts off to a degree, but he gets away with it in the NFL. I mean, at the pro level, where he's kind of ducking and not seeing what he's throwing to anymore at that point. So I will say the only thing that I'm concerned about is how that translates is him sacrificing his mechanics to brace for a hit that's about to happen. That may not be a good thing in the NFL, because obviously the window of opportunity is very shortened and things happen at a quicker pace. So I don't know how it's going to translate for him in that regard.
Yeah, that's fair enough about the pocket, and it's going to be exacerbated in the NFL. Now, I think it would be remiss in not mentioning with Jones, there's two character concerns with him. One, he got a DUI a couple years ago, so take that for what you will. And the other thing is there was a controversy about a photograph that his sister posted on Twitter that was definitely a racist photograph. The question was, one, was it actually Mac Jones? Unknown. Two, he was 14 years old. So I think that's something that it was a photograph. Okay, it's a photograph of a person of Jones's rough size with a racist caricature-looking Barack Obama mask on that had braids down, fake hair, obviously, kind of down, and it had a saying on the shirt, So it was an anti-Barack Obama thing, probably more than anything. But it was definitely a racist photo. Whether or not that's him or not, nobody knows. And also, he would have been 14 years old. So, teams would probably have to ask him about that. And I don't have any other knowledge other than what I just told you. So I think those two things are a concern that teams would have to look at. Is he a drinker? That's a problem. And does he have racist tendencies, or was this just an idiotic thing he did when he was 14, or was it not him at all? So those three things.
Man, shit, by the looks of his gut from that championship picture, he probably is a drinker still.
Yeah, I mean, and drink up. What would you be you? But is it a problem? I mean, that's the question. Okay, so let's move on though, so this doesn't take all day. I have Kyle Trask rated number 5.
Now let's say Trask. John Keim has linked him to Washington as somebody they like in the later rounds.
Yeah,
so that's worth noting on Trask right away.
I think there's a clear distinction between the top 4 and then the rest of them, okay? I think this is a big dividing line right here. And yes, I've excluded Trey Lance. Feel free to disagree with me. But Kyle Trask, so he's experienced. He played 27 games in college. He's got a decent arm. His problem, of course, is he's got, he had Kyle Pitts. He had Tre'Varius Toney on the team. He's another guy that's got a ton of talent around him. But I think Trask is sort of a worthy second round pick, decent arm, experienced guy, not overly athletic, but he's big, has good size. So I think he has the potential to become an NFL starter.
Well, I like Trask too. I think I was probably early on. I think the biggest knock that people say when somebody says they like Kyle Trask is the same thing that they say with Mac Jones, man. Oh, he's not athletic. Well, I get it. All right. I think here's my overall thing with the athleticism part of quarterback. Being athletic is a what's the word? Is it
a bonus?
To me, it's
a bonus.
More than
Thank
anything.
you. Because I was thinking of another word. It was an S word, but it's a bonus. But it's not the main thing of being a quarterback. You have to know how to throw the ball. You have to know how to read a defense. You have to know how to assess the field pre-snap. You have to identify certain things. You have to know how to look at the block and protection. What if you're athletic and you can't do anything up front? Like you're not able to set the protection the right way, or you're not able to identify the Mike backer or understand what the safeties are doing and their coverages, something like that. I don't know. But my thing is that should be second. It's a supplement. That's the word that I was thinking of. It's not what you do at the quarterback position that makes you. Being athletic is not what you do at the quarterback position that makes you successful in crunch time, or being able to lead your team down the field when you're down 10 plus points, 7 plus points, or whatever. Like, for example, here's a perfect example. Now, this is an extreme example, but it's still a really good example. Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, they are athletic. They know how to move around. And I'm talking about a prime Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's still, at 38 years old, he still moves around. But when you're talking about like...
They're passers first, though.
Exactly. That's where I was getting at. When you're talking about like 27-year-old Aaron Rodgers or current day Patrick Mahomes, they are athletic. But they know how to throw the ball, which makes them the threat. That is what they do best. They are passers. They are cerebral. Now, Pat Mahomes did acknowledge he didn't know how to read a defense his first 2 years in the league. He didn't know how to read a defense. He couldn't understand the coverages. But at the same time, when you're that talented, like you're processing what's going on, but you're not able to like express it, like what you're seeing. But you just kind of know in an innate sense. These are the type of guys that you're looking at. And when I tie that back to Kyle Trask, a lot of people are not giving him a chance because of that athleticism part. And I don't think that's fair, because I think Kyle Trask knows how to play the quarterback position. And you can't knock him for having the talent that he had at Florida. And you can't knock him really for the situation. Now, he did have some bad passes in the championship game, but you can't really knock him when half of his team is out. Half his team didn't even play in that championship game. And we're talking about how he looked without his team. Well, no shit. A lot of people going to look like that when he ain't got half of his team with him. So you just got to be careful. And I don't think athleticism is a huge knock on Kyle Trask.
No, I agree. I think the knock on Trask for me is that he's got loose mechanics. To me, he's so big. He just looks kind of gangly. And I don't think he can duplicate his throwing motion nearly as good as Trevor Lawrence, who's as tall as he is. I think that to me was the big knock on Trask. Was I just don't think he's really there mechanically like those other top three guys are.
I think the other criticism you hear a lot with him is that his arm strength is probably not at the caliber at the rest of these.
Oh, definitely not. No, he's for sure.
He's got more of a Colt McCoy level arm.
Well, that's why he's ranked a little lower.
Right. But
okay,
he's
so I had
day 2, day 3 pick probably.
Yeah, I think some people have him drop, and I think he's a round 2 kind of prospect.
Okay.
I have Davis Mills ranked number 6. He has some very strong negatives, but at heart, he's a pocket passer who's played in more of a pro-like system than these other guys. His problem, not good at reading the field. He's going to have time to develop that. Only played in 14 games in 3 years. He was in the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 barely had a season last year. So he's not played a lot of football. That's his huge negative. But to me, he's got a decent arm. He needs to develop his ability to read the field, but he has decent. He projects as a pro because I think his college experience lends itself to that more so than some of these other prospects. So
Stanford has
I like
always
Davis.
run a lot of pro style stuff.
And you can see it
Right.
You can see it in Davis Mills. His problem again is he just hadn't played much football. He should have stayed at Stanford another year. I think he made a mistake by coming out. So that's Davis Mills for me. Thoughts on him?
I mean, if you watch any tape of him, you can see that his mechanics are pretty darn good. I heard one person give a Kirk Cousins comp to him, and I could kind of see that. He runs a lot of shorter West Coast style stuff, which is, again, kind of a product of where he's playing. So, I mean, he might be a guy where you take him, you let him learn for a year or two, and then he could become a starter,
Well, and as a second or third round pick, you can allow him to sit for a
exactly.
while and learn. So that's the benefit of him.
Right. And I would not be against them taking him. I don't know if he fits what Scott Turner's wanting to do, which is a lot of downfield stuff.
Right.
So
All right.
I don't have too much
ahead.
of an opinion on Mills yet. Only because I just haven't had. I've been meaning to, but I just haven't had the chance to look at him. I've only had a chance to read about him. So I have no personal opinion except for the opinions of others. And from what I'm hearing, it's the same thing that Steve said, but also that he has a lot of potential because of what he knows to this point and the way he played in those 14 games. The stuff that he was able to display in such a short period of time. But I don't have an opinion yet.
Okay. Let's move on then. This is where I have Trey Lance. I have him ranked number 7, which is a lot lower than almost all of the other talking heads have him. Here's my problem with him, okay? Here's the good side. He's got a strong arm. He's very athletic, a very good runner. Beyond that, it stops for me. I think from a passing perspective, he's a one read and go guy. I never saw him read the field. He's inaccurate deep. Even with wide open receivers, he's inaccurate. He throws these floating rainbow balls a lot of times that are going to get intercepted in the NFL. He's playing on a running team in the FCS. He's thrown a grand total of 318 passes in his entire college career, 208 completions. He's very inexperienced. Didn't play last year, but for one game. I don't get Trey Lance at all. I think he's got a really high bust potential. There's no telling whether this guy can translate to the NFL or not. Is he a runner? Sure. Scouts are dueling over him because he's got a ton of potential. I get it. But I don't think that this is a player that I would want to risk a first-round draft pick on. I think he's a player you take lower and then let him develop, and maybe he'll be great in a couple years, but I wouldn't want to risk my career on a first-round bust like this, on a player that has a high bust potential. So to me, he's got a very long way to go. There's only so much you can just draft on strict potential for, and I think Trey Lance is the biggest question mark in the draft.
I think he's the
You can disagree with me. It's okay.
No, I'm thinking because I think he's the biggest. I think the most interesting thing was seeing where you rank. When I heard you rank Davis Mills 6, and I haven't heard you rank Trey Lance yet, I was interested. So having them back to back is reasonable. Whether it was Trey Lance first and Mills second, or vice versa. I think that was probably the most reasonable take because both of them lack the experience word. They don't have experience. They've thrown a minimum amount of passes. Trey Lance only throwing 318. That was, like I said last week, that was the person that I watched alongside Mac Jones. And the thing with Trey was a lot of things that you said. But I will mention, because of what we've talked about in terms of athleticism, I stated back then, like, I saw he is an elite runner. Like, that's what you get immediately. He will make those plays. He reminded me of Cam Newton when he ran in terms of his play style with the football in his hands.
I've been saying Cam Newton is the comp forever. I mean, he's a lesser version of Cam Newton.
Yeah, and the thing when it comes to quarterbacks in general, when it comes to scrambling and running, I never will ever, a person who has that play style will never tell them you need to protect yourself. Because those are the type of people who already innately know how to do it, or they're just physical enough to the point where it's like, that's not even, protecting themselves is not in the repertoire. If they play physical, that's how they don't get hurt. That's how they know how to play football. There's certain quarterbacks who don't know how to protect themselves, and you can see it in how they get hit. We had that experience with RG3, and there's other quarterbacks out there who just don't know how to protect themselves. But when you're talking about Russell Wilson, you're talking about Lamar Jackson, these people aren't like Russell Wilson. He's not getting contact. He's not taking those bigger hits. He's just going to slide. You don't have to worry about him. Lamar Jackson, he's a scrambler. He could take on a bigger hit. That's fine. It's not like he's going to get caught blindsided. He's too aware on the field. Trey Lance is a guy who, like we said, we're not going to repeat again, but it's like Cam Newton. I'm all for his extreme elite athleticism, and he's a playmaker. He can get you 20 to 25 yards on a scramble. I'm all for it. But again, to Steve's point, the accuracy and throwing the football, that's the main thing that we need in the quarterback. If you're going to ask Trey Lance to, because he's going to get drafted in the first round, regardless of where we rank him, he's going to get drafted because that's how the draft goes. But if you're going to ask him, hey man, we're down 10 points. It's the beginning of the fourth quarter. We're going to need you to make some plays. And you're asking him to throw the football. Good luck. Good luck. And you're just hoping he could develop down the road, but I don't see it. I've seen some passes anywhere 12 yards or more down the field is where he was struggling.
Yeah, I will say I read that in someone's article that his completion rate after the line of scrimmage is only something like 44%, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy, Alex, because I noticed that watching it. I didn't even know there was a stat. 12 plus yards down the field. I didn't even know there was a stat in terms of beyond the line of scrimmage for Trey Lance, and that's crazy. It was incredibly shaky, and it was an eye raiser for sure.
And also, mind you, this is also at North Dakota State. On top of that, they're just not playing anywhere close to NFL competition. So I think we all sort of see the same on Trey Lance. I said Kellen Mond because I have him number 8. He reminds me of Trey Lance a little bit. A much more experienced Trey Lance to some extent. I think Kellen has a strong arm. He's put up big-time college numbers. He strikes me as a guy who is a great college quarterback who's not going to be a great NFL quarterback. I don't see an ability to read and scan the field and make throws at a high rate of speed as you would in an NFL quarterback. I think he's a one-read-and-go guy. I don't think he's proven he can be any more than that.
Right.
I think he's a risk. He's probably a third-round-ish talent, and so there may be a place for a guy like that in the NFL, but to me, he's like a career backup type.
Yeah, I worry about guys who don't have great completion percentages, right off the bat.
Yes.
His are fine,
Absolutely.
but they're not, guys are getting in the high 60s, 70s now in college. And his is, like, he had 1 year in the 50 range, I know.
59%.
Yeah. So I worry about that a lot with any quarterback prospect. And like we've said, at this point we're talking about guys you're taking second, third round who you're hoping to groom into that starting role maybe next year. And, it's a risk, but it's a lower risk.
At some point, the risk is worth the reward for a guy like this. I have him ranked number 8 out of respect for the success he had in college.
Right.
And he's experienced. He's played 46 games, so he's got that going for him. I've got Felipe Franks from Arkansas ranked number 9. The reason why he's number 9 to me, big guy, strong arm, accurate thrower, pocket passer. Is he athletic? No, he's not mobile. He's a statue, basically. But if you can pass from the pocket in the NFL, you're going to have a chance at success. And that's why I like Felipe Franks. In terms of, again, all these guys at this point are projects.
Yeah.
But that's why I have him ranked as high as I do over some of these
I think
next
it's fair
guys.
to say between where we're going with Mond and Franks, now we're going down another tier.
Oh, absolutely.
This
Yeah, for
is
sure.
Probably not even your third-round picks. Now we're in your fourth and beyond guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Franks and some of these other names. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, he clearly has some things you could build off of, but when you get to these big statue pocket quarterbacks, I worry. Is it another Nate Sudfeld situation? That's just what my head goes to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And again, that's why, like, as you said, he's going to be drafted later. But I think at the end of the day, any quarterback who can pass on the pocket successfully has a chance. And so I have him ranked above some of these other guys. The next one, number 10, Jamie Newman, played at Tulane, transferred to Georgia, and then didn't play a down for Georgia last year. Opted out of the season. Strong arm, but this is another guy who has not shown the ability to read the field, throw with anticipation, as an NFL quarterback would. So he's a project for sure. Another guy who would have been better playing another year in college.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Newman, there's some intrigue with him because he didn't play, but truthfully, I don't know how.
That's not the kind of intrigue I want.
Yeah. It's not the kind of history you want if you're going to draft a guy with Newman.
Yeah, Jamie Newman.
Any thoughts?
He's interesting, but I think he's interesting in a case like I will never forget the moment I got introduced to Jamie Newman. Right. I had a 10 game for the gamblers out there. I know how low of a probability it was, but let me walk you through my process. Right. I had a 10 game parlay. For those who don't know, and are gamblers, I have to have all of these 10 bets on one ticket. They all have to hit in order for me to win my money. So, 10 game parlay. NC State versus Wake Forest. Jamie Newman, new guy. He's the backup. He's not even the starter at this point. He comes into the game, and on everything I love, I was sweating bullets the entire game because he was the first leg. That was the first leg of the parlay. It was a Thursday night game, and then it went into Friday, and it went into Saturday. Or even it was a Friday night game, and it went into Saturday. Point being, Jamie Newman led Wake Forest back multiple times after they went down like 17-3 or 14-3 or something like that. He led them back multiple times with his leg and his arm. And it was incredible to watch from just a football perspective. From a gambling perspective, again, I was sweating bullets. Eventually, I think Wake Forest won outright. And that was the one game on my 10-game parlay that I lost. That's how I got introduced to that's how I got introduced to Jamie Newman, was him crushing a 10-game parlay all by himself. And 9 other games hit. I was very frustrated, and I was heartbroken for probably a good 2 or 3 weeks after that. But with that being said, Newman is a guy that I like because he also at the time reminded me of Cam Newton. His frame, how he threw it. I think he was a little bit more accurate than Cam Newton, but at the college level, I don't think. I mean, he was throwing it well. I didn't see nothing that stood out like in a negative way. But Jamie Newman was a guy that I liked. He was very competent and composed. But that's how far it takes for me, because I know he was transferring to Georgia in 2020, but he ended up opting out. And I think his second year, I don't remember how that went. I just remember his freshman or his first year as a full-time starter because of the injury. He was really good then. So I'm a fan of Jamie Newman.
He only played 19 games.
Yeah, I just don't know how it's going to turn out for him on the next level. But I am a fan of Jamie Newman. I don't expect him to get drafted high, but we're talking about like round 4 is probably his sweet spot. So I'm very interested in seeing where he'll go.
Yeah. I mean, I have him ranked number 10. So, I mean, yeah, he has potential. But, okay, so number 11, I've got Sam Ehlinger from Texas. I don't think he's much of an NFL quarterback, personally, but he's played 46 games. He's very experienced, passed for a lot of yards. His problem is he's another guy who's a runner, not a passer.
Yeah.
Below average arm strength, can run, but being an NFL level quarterback, I think, is probably not in the cards with him. To me, he's Colt McCoy, only slightly bigger and probably slightly less accurate.
Yeah. Fun to watch, though. I watched some tape of him early on. I found him at least entertaining.
Oh, yeah. He's a great college quarterback, but there's a difference between a great college quarterback and an NFL quarterback.
Oh, very much.
I've ranked him even 11 out of respect for the amount of for the experience he has more than anything. Okay, number 12, Ian Book from Notre Dame. He's 6 feet tall, 205 pounds. That's his big problem. Weak arm, below average arm strength by NFL standards. Could maybe make it as a West Coast offense guy. Dink and dunk his way down the field. He's played 45 games. Again, another very experienced guy, but he's probably realistically just too small to be a starter. But you could maybe see him coming on a Jay Gruden type of offense.
Yeah, the height's going to kill you, but I thought I saw that he's won more games than any quarterback in Notre Dame history, which
that's true. That is the truth, yeah.
Because when you think of all the great Notre Dame quarterbacks that there have been.
Joe Montana was a Notre Dame quarterback.
Joe Theismann, Joe Montana, like multiple great quarterbacks, and he's actually won more games than them.
Yeah. Okay, last one I have ranked. I went down to 13 because 13 quarterbacks were drafted last year. Last guy I have is Shane. I'm going to mispronounce his name. Shane Buechele from SMU.
Buechele.
This is the guy that
he transferred from Texas.
Okay. Yeah, this is the guy that Ehlinger beat out, which is why Buechele is at SMU. So another guy, he's undersized, 6'1", 205, has struggled with accuracy at times. He's not a dynamic runner, below average arm strength, but he is experienced. He's played a lot. He played a lot. He played 4 years. So I have him ranked last on this list. Realistically, he's probably an undrafted free agent, but I think he's the best of the rest of them. So that's Buechele.
Yeah, Buechele. I don't have
Buechele. My fault.
I don't have a specific opinion on Buechele. I think the one thing that I remember, because like I said, I watch a lot of college football. I just remember he was very physical at Texas, and I've seen him when he went to SMU, and he's played really well there. I think they got off to like a 10-0 start with him at one point. I think, but anyway, I remember him being very physical at Texas, and he was the same guy when he transferred, like a physical quarterback. He didn't make like any great throws, but he has if I had a comp for him, probably be like a younger Ryan Fitzpatrick in terms of like the type of play style that he had. Just off the top of my head, they're physical. They're both physical. They can take on hits, but I don't know like how well he is in the accuracy and throwing downfield department. Can't call it. I'm just going off of what I remember from watching him play.
So, kind of a gunslinger is what you're saying there, it sounds like.
That may be a term. I will have to look at him. Steve, did you, like, how do you feel in terms of comparison sakes? Because so
I don't know.
I didn't watch a ton of him. I watched a little bit of him. When I'm getting down that far, I
get it.
You run out of time.
Yeah,
I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a totally misapplied analogy. He's smaller than Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is a bigger dude with a bigger arm than Buechele. So maybe play style, yes, but physical characteristics, no.
I gotcha.
Put that way.
Gotcha. All right, guys. I think that does it for the quarterbacks. Which that's
yes.
It. All right, let's transition to the draft a little, and I'm going to start with a quarterback question.
Okay.
Do you think Washington will draft a quarterback? If so, when and I guess who will depend on when, mostly.
I'll start. I think no.
No, period.
I don't think. Yeah, no. Period. I don't think they're going to be able to get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. Obviously Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields are probably realistically all gone top 10. I don't see Ron Rivera trading up for one.
Well, so
one of those
now
guys.
there's still the talk that Mac Jones is somehow going 3, and then Fields could drop a little. There's that talk.
Yeah, but he's not going to drop to 19, and none of these guys are getting past the Patriots
no.
15. You got to remember that. So, and I don't think Trey Lance is worth a first-round pick, so I would hope that Washington wouldn't do that. But if you're talking about prospects, I don't really see the point in drafting another prospect. The Washington has 3 prospects already. They've got Taylor Heineke, Josh Allen, Steven Montez. All 3 of those guys are prospects. Why do we need another one? They need a starter. Who's going to fit on the roster? If they draft a 4th-round quarterback, I don't know, pick one, Davis Mills type guy, who's going to get cut? I just don't see the point in it. I think it's a waste of a draft pick. What they need is a starter level, and if they can't get that, I don't think they're going to bother.
Jamal, what about you?
I think they're going to draft a quarterback. I'm thinking 2nd or 3rd round. They do have 2 3rd rounds. So, that 3rd round may be the sweet spot for them. So, I do think they'll draft a quarterback. One thing that pops into my head every single time that I think about this position, though, is just the conversation or the statement that Ron Rivera made when you're trying to take into account competition and having a true competition. How are you going to divide the reps at training camp and stuff like that? It's going to be hard when you have a presumed starter and they're not getting the amount of reps that they need to prepare for the starting job. But that's one thing I always keep in the back of my head is how are they going to prepare and how are they going to really get a true competition when you have 3 or 4 quarterbacks there. But I do think they're going to draft one. That's on them to figure out the second part.
I'm with you. I think that 3rd round, one of those 2 picks is going to be a quarterback. And I'll tell you why. I know we have 4 guys technically. 2 of them will be gone next year, likely. Contractually speaking, they're on 1-year deals at this point. So I think that, realistically, having somebody you drafted who's on a 4-year contract, you need some stability at the position, even if it's just in a depth situation. So that's where I would approach it.
Fair enough. Look, maybe I'm wrong, but I really just don't see the point. And I think Ron Rivera likes Josh Allen a lot. I think he really likes Josh Allen, and Kyle Allen, and he's fallen into Taylor Heineke. So, to me, if you can't draft a starter, I guess I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess I don't
look,
get it.
I'm with you. I don't think that in the end they'll have the revenue they don't have the pieces to trade up to get one of these top 3 guys.
And Rivera doesn't have a history of that. He's never traded up in round 1. I went through this a few shows ago. He's never traded up in round 1 ever.
Sure.
So I just think it's not realistic to think they're gonna. I know some people, draft experts have predicted that, but
yeah, I've seen
like you said, Alex, they don't have the draft capital. They don't have the history for it. Where are they going to jump to? If you've got 4 quarterbacks going in the top 5, where are they going to jump to exactly, and who are they going to get for their jump?
Right.
And
those are all fair questions, I think, at this point. So with that in mind, let's talk about that 1st-round pick, because that's what everyone cares about, even though you build through, day 2 and 3. 1st-round pick, you're on the board at 19. Who you hoping's there? What are you targeting, position or player-wise? And then realistically, what do you think the Redskins or Washington football team will come away with?
Offensive tackle or linebacker.
Sure.
I think that's one of those 2 is where they need to go. Tackle-wise, it's probably Christian Darrisaw. If you want to go guard, you got Vera. Was it Tucker Vera? Vera Tucker
right,
from
he's
USC.
Like a
he's
right
probably
tackle
the guy.
guard type.
Yeah, right tackle guard, or guard. Those 2 guys. Or linebacker, I think Micah Parsons or Zaven Collins, or the other guy that starts with the T. Help me. The name's
the guy from Notre Dame.
No, not him. I'm not a fan of him. I just, my problem with him.
Were you talking
JOK? Yes, thank you, him. my problem with JOK from Notre Dame, and he's so small by linebacker standards, is he really an every down player? And if he's not, why are you drafting him in round 1? I mean, that's my problem with him. So to me, I'm rooting for either Christian Darrisaw, Micah Parsons, Zaven Collins, or Davis. One of those 4 guys. That's who I'm rooting for.
Well, speaking of Collins, did you see the thing in the news that he's apparently getting up to like 270 now? Like he's trying to bulk up? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty gigantic for a linebacker, but he's also very athletic.
Yeah, I think he's trying to be more of an edge rusher, is what it sounds like.
And if that's the case, maybe he's not appropriate for what Washington needs.
So for me, I am in the boat of honestly skill position and playmakers first round. So I'm thinking some of the people that Steve mentioned already, but mainly Micah Parsons. But also if we ain't going linebacker. We already heard from Steve Shoup a couple weeks ago. Odds are at 19, it's not worth investing at the safety position for the reasons that he mentioned. But I'm looking at linebacker, I'm looking at receiver, and probably, depending on the situation, cornerback. But those are my 3. Obviously, we know like tackle. It's not safe to bank on Lucas. It's not safe to bank on Lucas, but at the same time, he was able to hold it down for a short period. So I need people who are going to make plays for the quarterback, who are going to make plays for this team and make this team more explosive. But also defensively, I need somebody who can shut down any type of any type of offense, sideline to sideline, be quick and physical at the line of scrimmage. And that's why I'm only really focusing on linebacker as number 1, and then wide receiver number 2, and then cornerback number 3.
Yeah, it is a tough draft when you're at 19 to predict who's going to be where. What positions are going to have a run. Parsons, if he's there, yeah, you get him. But, I'm not in love with any of the other linebackers. Like we have to take this guy at this spot because I feel like there's some deep linebacker guys who will be there in rounds 2 and 3 that we can go after who would be able to contribute right away. And you mentioned corner. The more I look at the cornerback depth in this draft, I kind of like some of the corners, even though I don't think we need a corner in round 1, and it wouldn't thrill me. I don't know if we need a wide receiver at that point. It's a very tricky draft to predict. And after Darsaw, it seems like a drop-off at tackle. I might be wrong about that.
Yes.
But,
no, I think so.
I think all the other guys, you're talking right tackles, guys who can turn to guards, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a tough spot.
I mean, if you want to name a wide receiver, I guess you're looking at Kadarius Toney from Florida, because I think Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle are going to be gone. I think there's a serious concern about Devonta Smith's height, weight and height. So if one of those 3 guys is going to drop, it's going to be him. But realistically, I think he'll be gone too. So if you're looking at receiver, it's Toney. My problem with corner is that I think Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn are both going to be gone. And so then you're kind of left with the third choice a little bit.
Well, so I hate to say this because I feel like we're good at the position, but if you're really going best player available, you might be looking at one of those top 2 running backs too. And people don't love the idea of a running back in round 1 usually, but that might be if you're looking who's the best guy on the field or on the board, they might have that top grade. And would there be a worse thing than maybe Harris or who's the other guy? Eton?
Well, Travis Etienne.
Yeah, thank you.
I think he's probably more of a second-round pick,
Probably.
realistically, but I like him a lot.
But, then you're talking about a pretty good running back room to take some pressure off of Fitzpatrick.
You could have do worse and have Najee Harris
right.
running the ball. And then Antonio Gibson being kind of the slasher type. I mean, you'd have a strong running back group like that.
And there's something enticing about that, especially for a guy like Ron Rivera, who's a old-school run-the-ball guy anyway.
Yeah, but my problem with it is I don't know if Scott Turner is.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if that's Turner. But Turner hopefully can adjust a little.
Yeah, I mean, the other corner, by the way, is Caleb Farley, but I think there's no chance that Caleb Farley is there at 19 either.
Right.
Incidentally. So I think this is as wide open a year for trying to predict what Washington's going to do as any we've had since we've been doing this show.
Yeah, it really is. I would also, I hate to say it because it's so stereotypical of fans. I would love it if they could trade back. If there's no one there they like, go pick up a first-round pick for next year, and trade back a little.
I usually don't like trade backs in round one just because it bothers me to give up big-time talent. But, I mean, being at 19, yeah, I might be willing to move back a few spots if the board just doesn't line up this year, which it might not,
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say there are non-quarterbacks, probably 7 or 8 real blue chippers in this draft. So, you add in the quarterbacks who will go early because quarterbacks always go early.
Well, let's name them. So, other than the quarterbacks, who are the blue chippers? Kyle Pitts,
Sewell.
Penei Sewell.
I think Parsons is.
Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle.
Right. And then you got the 2 corners you mentioned, Surtain and Horn, right?
Horn and then Caleb Farley, too.
Okay, so that's 8 right there. Is there anyone we're missing that you can think of?
I mean, Devonta Smith, if you throw him in there,
and by the way,
height, weight aside.
Thinking about his weight, is there... To me, it's a little silly that they're that concerned about his weight when I can make a guy put on 10 pounds over a year. Like if you have a training staff, you can do that.
Devonta Smith is a speed guy.
I know.
I think ETN is probably a blue chip too. ETN is really good.
You think so?
I think so.
By draft standards?
I think both those running backs kind of are, but running backs are disrespected in the draft, so
Yeah,
they're extremely disrespected. I think.
I was approaching it from who's the standpoint of who are the guaranteed top of the draft picks.
Oh,
That's
top
kind
of
of
the
where
draft.
I was
All
approaching
right, well, fair enough. Then exclude them. I do their first round talents. They're definitely top 20 talents, but I don't know if they're top 10. Like those.
I'm scanning through a list right now. What about Slater and Darsaw are probably just outside that, right? That's when you're getting outside of the top 10.
Yeah. I think I'm more or less okay with anybody Washington could draft from a position standpoint, except defensive line and edge rusher. I mean, we don't need that. They don't need to waste a first round pick on that. But anything else, they could probably use them one way or the other. So it's just a matter of finding the right player.
Yeah, I think that's true. Is you kind of, and again, they're at 19. We just named 8 guys, and you'll probably get 4 quarterbacks going. So that only gets you to 12.
Could have 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah, could have 5 quarterbacks gone by then, which gets you to 13. So when you do that kind of math, if you're not willing to trade up, you might make more sense to trade back.
I mean, who are the trade up positions?
Carolina.
I think the Broncos are another one.
The Broncos will probably have a quarterback if you're trying to trade up.
I don't understand that. I mean, they have Drew Lock. I don't know why they would just throw him in the trash can. But yeah, I think
it's John Elway.
Well, yeah, there you go. John Elway, who ironically is he's the worst quarterback evaluator around, which I think is ironic. But the other one would be the Falcons. Could you trade up to 4? The Falcons don't really need a quarterback.
No. They need defense. That's what they need.
Yeah, so there's another one. So I guess the Broncos aren't a trade up, but the Falcons and the Panthers are probably your 2 spots you could.
Detroit is one that you.
Detroit would be another one
at 7, I think.
Yeah. I just don't call me crazy, but I don't think Washington's going to do that. And I think Alex, you're right. What are they going to trade?
Right. You got to give up a lot of picks,
or give up a player, and so I just don't. I think that's not in the cards.
I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I did like a little breakdown of all the trades from mid to late first round up to top 5-ish. And, there's no perfect comps, but to trade up and go for a quarterback, especially because the trade value really changes if you're going for targeting a quarterback. You're talking you got to give up 4 to 5 assets. So that's either first,
3 picks and a player,
second round picks, or players. Yeah. So, are you willing to give up that many picks or even players?
For the 4th or 5th ranked quarterback.
Right. Exactly. Let's say it's Justin Fields. Are you willing to give up this year's first, next year's first, this year's second, next year's second, and Matt Ioannidis for Justin Fields?
I mean, at some level, there's no price to be paid for a true franchise quarterback. I just think that Fields would come with too much risk
Right.
to want to trade those assets. If it was like Trevor Lawrence, yeah, I'd do it. I'd trade my whole team for him if I could. But that's just not what Fields is. I mean, he's a great prospect, but he's got risk.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying that's what it'll take. So.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it.
I'd be against it. What's that, Jamal?
I said I get it. I'm not a fan of it. So.
No,
Yeah,
me
no.
neither. Build, just keep building. You'll find a quarterback. If you build a good enough team, guess what happens? Somehow you get a quarterback who can play with them. Like that's an effective way to win in NFL. Anyway, we've gone over, guys. I'm also running out of steam, if you can't tell.
You still got tissue stuffed up your
Yep.
nose.
Oh, I've gone through like half a roll of toilet paper.
That is incredible.
So we'll say whatever Washington does this Thursday, we will have our thoughts in writing. At least I will about it. We'll have a post up about it, and we will review all of the draft picks on next Monday's show.
Yep, that's exactly what we're gonna do. Guys, it was good talking draft with you. Good talking quarterbacks with you. We will see you next week. Later.
Yeah.